Dr. Karen Mikowski, aka Butterfly Karen. Welcome. I'm also the leading investigator in any of my cases, parapsychology and paranormal investigations. Welcome to today's 4th real-time remote viewing session on Missing Nancy Guthrie here, missing Tucson lady, as many of you know. Interesting. The whole point of today's session is really, well, I was doing my pre-prep earlier, and I'll discuss what I was already getting before I even connected. But again, I've not really been disconnected from Nancy's energy since the 7th of February 2026. So, but I feel like every time I'm connected to her energy now, it's almost like she's pushing me, showing me that I feel like I'm just seeing the perpetrators and the movements of them right now. So it's not a waste. I'll use that. Obviously, I want to get as much information, and that's the intention today too, to just focus purely on the perpetrators' energy, because if we can figure out who they are and where they are, we can start getting closer to finding Nancy. So now let me clock in for her, do anything. So again, this is going to be case CCMP80 now, because it's the 4th session I'm working on. So it is March the 21st, 2026. So 3, 26, and we are clocking in at 11:55 a.m. Get these reports done. Probably tomorrow, because I want to get the report done and then sent to the FBI tip line, obviously, just in case there is any actual information coming out about the perpetrators they need to know. They may already have it. I feel like they've got somebody under surveillance anyway. They kind of have a feeling they know who might be involved, but there might be a few more than we expected. So here's why. Just during a pre-prep, getting energetically ready, making the, reconnecting to the end. Well, I'm not really completely disconnected, but setting my intentions basically. And I was hearing Mexican cartel connection to Mexico. Is someone she knows connected to organized crime, possibly to the cartel? And then I heard what price tag were they offered, and I also heard someone was offered a large amount of money to target Nancy. Then, because I've been so focused on this particular campgrounds where I keep seeing these cabins, like around forest terrain and things like this, then because I was kind of seeing that visual again, I keep getting drawn back to these wooded cabin areas. It's really weird. But then I heard, does the cartel own or run private campgrounds in Arizona? The FBI would know this. If so, they need to look into these places. Right. I guess that was like the question I was asking energy, but you know. But again, because I'm kind of tapping into my higher self. Now, is it possible that there are some private campgrounds in Arizona, maybe South Arizona, that are owned or run or controlled by the cartel, the Mexican cartel? It wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, it would be a great cover for them to do business here in the US. And especially if they're legally allowed here too, you could legally run a business. I do. I'm a green card holder. I'm permanent resident. So you can run a business without being a citizen here. And I'm just wondering, are there any campgrounds, private campgrounds, like RV resorts and things like this, that are owned by people that are connected to the cartel? Because you bring people in, it's a good way. It would be, if you're thinking about the trafficking aspect, you could bring people in and have them stay in those areas without being major red flags that would, because you would just assume the tourists are people camping, but you don't know if they're holding grounds for people. And that's kind of why I was feeling like I was seeing these cabins. It was really strange, and I thought, I'm wondering if there's a cartel connection, organized crime. So it's possible the Bureau may need to start looking at some of these private campgrounds with connections to Mexico, and really do a deep dive into, you know, into your sort of Interpol intel and everything, and figure out, are these connected to cartel and why they got campgrounds, and we need to look at these campgrounds. You might be, for all you know, worst case scenario, I'm not saying it's true, I'm just saying the insights I'm getting is, let's just say for example you've got a freaking private campground that's owned by the Mexican cartel. You might be dealing with a freaking burial ground, because we kind of know what they do, you know. So, and then there may be holding grounds for when they're, you know, holding people for ransom and things like that until they get the money. But with Nancy, it could have gone horribly wrong. And again, before they even get them to from point A to point B to point C to where they need to hold them, etc., they need to survey them. They need to put them under some sort of surveillance to watch the movements. When's the best time to kidnap somebody, like abduct somebody like Nancy? And again, just discussing briefly, now we know that there was a metal security door, a front door. Well, we know it would have been a lot harder to kick that door in and break it in and go in that way. So it's very possible they could have had already somebody in. And again, that's what I was a bit worried about. Is somebody connected? Does somebody know Nancy that is connected to the possible organised crime or possibly the cartel? Because there is a real strong connection to Mexico. Which is why I was feeling like I was, again, even if you were transporting us south, is there any small campgrounds or anything like that down there towards, on the way to Mexico, that you could hold while you're monitoring the border, and then knowing if it's a good time to take them in, that sort of thing, bringing them over the border and putting them in a campground, putting people like to traffic in, or then holding them and knowing when the right time is to bring them over to the border. Now, I'm not being funny, but if you're part of the Mexican cartel and you're trying to get into the country, it's going to be a lot easier, because you're going to have people who are paid under the table, backhanders, that are just going to like turn their heads while you come in. So there's some weird stuff going on. So it would be interesting to know if there is somebody connected to her, close to her, that has affiliations or knows people either within organised crime or the actual Mexican cartel. They need to start looking there, because if there's somebody being preyed, if there's a reason why they wanted her abducted, it's still about money. I still say the motive is about money. So who wants the money? Who wants what? They're going to have to pay an organised crime syndicate of people to come and do the dirty work, right? That are organised enough to try and commit the abduction professionally and, you know, as possible. And then they'd have to hold her somewhere. Again, if you're going for that ransom, the kidnapping ransom, where you know there's big money involved, you're gonna have to hold her somewhere. But because she needed medication for her health, something may have happened to her. So that's why we can rule out proof of life, obviously. But now what? Where is she? So even though we're still focused on trying to find Nancy, we need to focus on the perpetrators now, to monitor their movements, and I feel like that's where we might. And you know, you got to understand as well, like a lot of cartel members, they have businesses here in the United States. They do. That's why they're able to commit organized crime. So they have construction companies and everything. They're probably a lot of them into like building homes and everything. You need to start looking at those areas. You need to start looking at foundations that have just been recently filled in with freaking concrete and stuff like that. You need to be looking at, do they own tip yards, junk yards, things like that? Do they own those car compressor? I mean, I know we see this shit in the movies, but this is still a real thing. You can still use those as IDs of how to dispose bodies and things like that. So you need to be figuring out who these people are. If they have got connections to Mexico and they are part of the cartel, look at the businesses that they're running and own in the United States, and then start looking in those areas, if that's not what the FBI is already doing, but which would be explaining exactly why it's taking so long. But my focus today is reconnect back to the perpetrators, because I'm feeling like there's something to do with private campgrounds, like little resorts and things like that. Okay, so that is my attention, and I'm wondering if that's that. There is one of them I feel is part of the organised crime syndicate, but if he's, I just feel like he wants to talk. I feel like he wants to come forward, but there's no way. If he's part of the cartel, he's not leaving that gang alone, alive, sorry, alone. Oh, hello there. He's not leaving it alive. There's no way. If they start suspecting he's ready to talk and hand himself in, they'll get rid of him. That's what they do. There's no such thing as a snitching system within these people, within these organised crimes at all. You just, they know they don't do it. But there's something very nerve-wracking. This guy's like nerve-wracking, weird, and I want to reconnect to his energy, because I feel like if he's still alive, I could probably get more of him. There is a dominant one. There's at least 2 or 3 people involved in taking her. There could have been one already inside that would have had access. So you've got to ask yourself, how did they get access? How were they able to avoid the cameras by getting access into the home, if that's the case, ahead of her coming home? The other one obviously put clothes, like really hid himself. That's the one that was, don't know if it's some sort of decoy, like, I don't know what the hell was going on there, you know. But again, if they were waiting for him to, waiting for the one inside to open the front door, that's how they would have had to, he would have had to come that way in. And then you would have somebody waiting in a vehicle not far beyond. Even if you're looking at houses in the area that were empty, they're still got to get from A to B. If that was a B point, that's how they're going to be on foot or through a vehicle. How close were these empty houses to Nancy's? Could they have done it just by going through the back gardens and things like that? Then you've got to ask yourself, if there is a house that close to Nancy's and you could get into it, to that secondary garden, into that vacant home without being seen, that's where that's obviously, you could do that on foot. But I'd be asking why the cameras in the hairback garden that are on the guest house were not pulling up anything, unless they did and they're just not telling us. But that would be only if there's a house in close proximity, so close to where a lot of land, a garden that you could get from the hair garden walking through into, I don't know how far or how close the possible vacant home that they're looking into is. But other than that, if it's a little bit far away, they're going to have to take her on foot or in a vehicle. So, okay. And now I'm a little bit concerned about heading towards because I've been wanting to look at some campsites and go there myself. But now I'm feeling like some of them could actually belong to the cartel. That might be a bit risky for me to just go there alone to some of these places right now. That doesn't mean I can't get close to them, but I would have to be very vigilant. I'd have to be very careful. So I'm going to try and connect to that one, nervous one. Just see exactly, one, if he's still with us on the planet, or if he's, see what's going on. Okay, so guardians, reconnect me to this perpetrator's energy frequency. Show me only, take me only to the perpetrator. I'm already connected to Nancy, so I just need to be connected fully to one of the perpetrators so I can see what's around them. I want to be able to hear everything. Jesus. Okay, keep it coming. Getting another possible motive, still about money. What is wrong with these people? I feel like there's people close to her possibly. I'm not speculating, but they may have been involved in some weird stuff, criminal stuff, possibly drugs. Okay, right, just give me a moment. I'm keep me connected, guardians, because right now I was seeing a white van that needs to be focused on. That could be what's being monitored on several CCTV cameras during the early hours, moving around. Or actually a white van that had no reason to be surveying the area. It could be a decoy van. I went with a decoy earlier as I was coming in. Even I was discussing decoy something. Decoy. But if it was doing surveillance on the community, it could be a fake electrician's van. Interesting. Nothing's random. Let it keep coming. If anybody saw what they thought was an electrician's van, just circulating the area maybe days or weeks before in the area and just didn't think anything of it, you need to bring that to the light immediately. They could be scouting the area, they could just be watching movements of. But then, so white van's interesting. Then I heard they do this for a living. There is multiple people, I'm telling you, I feel like it's part of some sort of organised crime syndicate, gang, something like that. They do this for a living. Multiple areas. They could earn or manage multiple areas. I'm going to tie that to the white van. Then I heard, you owe us, you didn't pay us, we took what you owe. This, because remember, I'm connected to one of the perpetrators. So, and then I heard drugs. And I'm wondering if someone's into some sort of, someone she might know, maybe not aware of, but someone close possibly that's into some sort of drug dealing or anything like that, drug trafficking, that they're connected to some sort of organised crime. They maybe owed them money. This is just another possible motive for taking Nancy. They owed them money and they didn't pay what they owed, and then they took Nancy. Let me zoom back on him. a drug trafficking ring. You need to look closer to someone that may be connected to drug dealers. There could be some sort of drug trafficking ring. That they may distribute to multiple locations. They do this for a living. That could be connected to drugs, or it could be connecting to kidnappings. It's very organised crime. I know that much. I can feel it. You can see it. This isn't. That would rule out the bungle burglary, because they went in there with the intention of taking her. So they took her for a reason. I hope it's nothing to do with this, because they're not, these sort of high-level drug cartel and drug dealers, and they're not forgiving. If you owe them money, if they can't get to you, they'll take they'll take the ones you love and hurt you that way. There is a drug trafficking ring active in Tucson. That's well known. It feels well known. That could be well known to the authorities and everything, local authorities. Jesus, I hope there's no connection to that PD department. I really hope not. I just keep hearing holding grounds. What in God's name? Holding grounds, campgrounds, holding grounds is places that they take people and hold them. Which is why I was focused on this guy being a watcher. Like, I was seeing him in a cabin, what looked like a campground, and that's why I was really connected to Nancy's frequency. Like, I was seeing him through her eyes, so she could have been alive for maybe not, I don't know, maybe not for long, or maybe they were trying to get money, trying to get what was owed to them, and just something went wrong. And like I say, she wasn't very well. She needed like medication to keep her. So I just feel like I was seeing him through her eyes in this cabin, and then again she was showing me. Don't really want to keep saying it, but just around trees, like sort of weird forest area. I just keep going back to that. Like, she was just showing me a weird shallow grave. She could have been showing me for another reason. That's why I'm focused on the fact that if there are some private campgrounds owned by organised criminals connected to the cartel, some of these private campgrounds could actually be burial grounds. That's why they might bury people that they take, and they own the land, so they're not too worried about. They might even be a bit picky about who they let tourists in, but if they're hiding, if it's like a decoy, if they're using a private campground as a sort of decoy, they might be regularly full, but they're not. But they have to be seen to be running a legitimate campground business, so they have to let some tourists in. They have to have. Where am I going with that? I'm going somewhere here. I'm just going to keep going with it, because there is something. Now I really have to get this too. Just wondering if I will be very disappointed if this is already well known, even on a federal level, and nothing's ever been done. I just feel like there's multiple businesses that they have in this state, I'm not fucking surprised by this. This is the most corrupt state, I believe. One of the most corrupt states in this country. It is vile. And it's so organised. On high level, political levels and everything. Everybody's involved in it. It's weird. I'm not even surprised by what I'm picking up right now. There is one organisation, a big organisation in this fucking state that controls and is affiliated to all multiple types of criminal organisations. Low level, mid-tier, and then high level, goes right up to the fucking top. That's why it's so corrupted. This fucking state is corrupted by wicked, disgusting fucking people. Vile. No one's got the balls to do anything about it. No, you can't. They can't. When you've got people from the justice system involved in this corrupt organisation, and what's it? No, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. You're not going to be able to fix it unless you got some fucking balls to do something about it, and that's clearly not happening, is it? Especially when I call this a gateway to the States, because it's great for fucking trafficking, isn't it? Human trafficking, drug trafficking. You're right there on the borders. Frickin' California, New Mexico, all the way to the East Coast. That way, straight up, mid-west. Just Texas, Colorado, high for drug trafficking up there, obviously, as we know. Nevada, Sin City, what does that tell you, really? Sex trafficking victims, you take them right over there, don't you? Get them on the stages, make them make money. It's disgusting. This is, God, it's just disgusting. Because everybody's got a piece of the pie. Everybody, at all levels, somebody's getting a piece of this pie. So how are you gonna? And then you wonder why things like this happen. And no one's got the fucking balls to do anything about the vile, disgusting corruption in this state. I mean, I feel like it's being dealt with, though. I mean, I was feeling that in 2024. Slowly. They've got to go for the top end, though. They've got to go for the ones at the top. Because it's a pyramid system. It's a weird pyramid system. The highest end is at the top. The highest controllers right in the justice system, law enforcement and everything. You deal with them, it trickulates down the pyramid, and eventually you wipe out the freaking organised criminals and everything. You're wiping them out. But it's got to be done. You've got to have someone who's got absolute guts. You need teamwork, but you need to get rid of these corrupt judges and these corrupt lawyers and these corrupt doctors and these corrupt psychiatrists and everything. You've got to figure out I understand when you connect who they're affiliated with and what memberships they pay into, you're going to understand why they're so protected and why it's so hard to touch them. It's not rocket science. And then they need the criminal organisations to come in and do the dirty work. That's why they like the cartel. They need the cartel. They pay the cartel. Backhanders, eyes wide shut. Seen a weevil, we're here, we will just. But we want a piece of the pie. It is disgusting. That's why Tucson is just so insipidly corrupted down there. You can feel the energies. No wonder I was a bit nervous about doing a grid search out there. So glad I went live with it. There's a lot of missing people in this state, and if there's multiple you've got to start figuring out who's taking them. It's not hard to understand. I just feel like there's like constant federal obstructions from doing anything about it. And then if you're obstructed on the federal level too, how are your federal agencies going to go in and do anything about it when you've been obstructed? When your federal agencies have been obstructed by federal fuckers at the top too, excuse the French, but hey, I'm saying it as it is. If you've got people in federal positions of power that are connected to people at state level, high positions of power, especially in the justice system, who are friends and buddy-buddy, you're not going to be able to achieve anything. You're not going to be able to combat crime like this at all. It's just starting to look and feel like someone's dream to clean up these streets, to clean up the corruption. It's like, because everyone's interconnected somehow. Wow. It's big. And it goes all the way up the state, right up to Flagstaff, all the way up through Sedona. Don't even get me started on the cults, because they're all interconnected. Again, everybody in every type of community, there is somewhere along this line a part of this cobweb, this spider's web. This one organisation is a spider's web, I call it. Right in the middle of it, every strand is connected to some sort of community, some sort of church, some sort of business, organisations, everything, some sort of cults and everything, all insipid. It's just trapped. The whole of Arizona State is trapped in this cobweb, because every sort of weird community, depending on what it is connected to it somehow. Or there are people in it that are connected. Oh God. And you wonder why you've got an 84-year-old missing woman. What are we, 40? How many days are we in now? I just feel like somebody close to her, or knows her really well, was involved in some sort of criminal activity. I don't know on what level, who they're connected to, but if that's the case, you need to start there, you need to focus there, because it's starting to feel like money was owed to an organised crime unit, you know? And do you know what, I almost feel like someone had warnings, like, well, get us the money, or well, oh God, and now oh God. The only comforting thing that's coming out right now is, I don't know how long you have to be legally declared missing before you can make any claims on any insurance companies or anything. But then again, this fucking state is so corrupted that there's a possible insurance fraud that goes on in the state. So if that's the case, nothing's off the table, is it? And if that's the only way, I don't know how long you've got to be declared missing before you can call in anything. Just because you're rich doesn't mean you don't pay into insurance policies for certain things. The richer you are, the more you pay in for, obviously, because you've got a lot more to protect and a lot more assets to protect. This is not rocket science, this is normal. Why in God's name am I going there? Why am I going right back to the beginning of my first? I feel like I've just gone full circle right back to my first investigation. This poor woman, this fucking poor woman. I just feel like she was a pawn in a game of chess she didn't even know was being played around her or anything, or she was a part of, or unknowingly, obviously. I just feel like she was a poor pawn that just had no idea. And go back to this culprit. I can't even hold my warrior's mouth right now, because this is ferocious energy. This is horrible. It's very heavy. I'm so tired of this corruption, globally, let alone in this country, especially in this state. No one's got the balls to do a fucking thing about it. Pathetic. And you call this a progressive in society? I don't think so. Anyway, just... And then you got to ask yourself, what in God's name are we paying our taxes into? When Sheriff Nannis mentioned that the culprit could strike again, culprit, don't you mean plural? Again, I feel like they do this for a living. This isn't just one man putting someone under surveillance. No, it feels like there's a bit of teamwork going on here. It's amazing how you can have all the teamwork when it comes to crime, right? But zero teamwork when it comes to combating it. Having the balls to combat corruption. No, it's because of who's involved in it, that's why. Just disappointing. And you seriously think you're going to stop drugs coming over that border? I don't think so. No way. Fentanyl, the whole lot. There's not a chance in hell. You're not going to stop anything coming from that Mexican border. Because you've got people in authority positions that are allowing it in because they're getting a piece of the pie. They're all connected. And that's why it's disappointing. Drug trafficking, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, for God's sake. You seriously think that's going anywhere to... No, that's not going to get combated at all. The illusion of it will, but it's not. There's too many people getting payouts for it, involved in it without actually being physically involved. It's never going to end until, again, somebody comes in with a absolute courage and fucking real balls, right? With guts. But I don't see that coming anytime soon. And that's explaining why it's taking so long. This investigation's just been dragged. It feels like it's being dragged out for a reason. Like, without a body, can't really do much, can they? Obviously, we all know that. So you've got to go around, you've got to investigate it slightly different, from a different angle now. Without finding Nancy, you've got to do, you're going to be, and again, if the FBI is really truly trying to do everything they can right, and I hope to God they are, I just feel like they're coming up against obstructions. And you've got to ask yourself, who's obstructing you? And then ask yourselves, why are you being obstructed? And then look at that person or persons obstruction. You go, what do you know? What is going on in this state that you need to be obstructive? Then who's connected to who? Where's the obstruction coming from? There is a pattern. It's an obvious pattern. It's actually embarrassingly obvious. But the pattern comes with obstructions. Oh, it's just so sad. I just feel like she was just an innocent person dragged into a corrupt criminal game of chess. Completely oblivious. Poor lady. I knew this was going to get heavy. That's all. This is what I'm getting off just by connecting to one of the perpetrator's energy. And this guy is like low level, low tier. I feel like he's just a watcher, possibly even a driver. And yet you understand, it's like just not off his energy. I'm feeling what he's surrounded by, what he's part of. And it's a hell of a lot bigger than we think. And if he seriously thinks he can talk, and get out of this. No. He's probably going to end up in a shallow grave in one of these holding grounds. And that's explaining the major fear and anxiety from him, big time. The fact that I felt like he was waiting for a phone call, and I can't remember now if it's number 2 or number 3, but the fact that I felt like he was waiting for a phone call, that the phone call wasn't coming. I just felt like he was chewing, literally chewing his nails down to the cuticle and everything. Like, really, I don't know what's going on here. I just felt like it's that nervous, that left hand again, that nervous. Weird. Again, you could have multiple jobs on these, possible if it is campgrounds, like maintenance or anything. He maintains it. Well, they would, wouldn't they? These are the sort of people that are not squeamish to remove a deceased corpse, right, and then transport it somewhere else. They're not squeamish about doing that. Oh, what have I tapped into with this guy? I can see why he wants to talk, because he's got a lot of information. There's a lot he could expose, but he won't last 5 minutes. And then he's got to be careful who he's talking to, even in the law enforcement or anything, because if they're connected to these sort of cartels and stuff, he's still a dead man. He's still, so he probably don't even know. He probably wants to talk, but he don't know who to trust, and I don't blame him either. Good Lord. Oof. And remember, looking at the guy coming up at Nancy's porch, you could just make the determination that they're just lower level criminals. But when it comes to organised crime, they use the lower level criminals to do the dirty work. They don't have to create such a sophisticated abduction or kidnapping. They're going to use the lower level ones. That's how it is. And then they're the scapegoats. They become the scapegoats. And if they do get caught, they don't live long enough to press charge, to give evidence or anything like that. That's the whole point of organised crime. And these sort of things, they have, no. They don't allow snitching. These are the sort of people that don't care about hurting women, children. I mean, they don't care about hurting men, but they don't have like a moral compass to go by, like we leave women and children alone. No, not these sort of people. They don't care. It's all about the money for them. If you're talking about a professional assassin, they don't tend to, they have a slightly different moral compass to do. They don't tend to touch women or children unless the woman is an absolute maniac or a psychopath, and that's a slightly different, that would be a slightly different mission for a professional assassin. They tend to just avoid women and children. These criminals don't give a flying flip-flop. They'll do anything to get what's owed to them or anything. Why am I going? Good God. Now I'm looking at that whole ransom request, and it's slightly different too. Like, we've got your money, but we need our mother back. And if they can't deliver the mother, they can't get the money, can they? So it's just weird. There's that, obviously, and that's normal. You would not give anybody anything without proof of life. But if there's something else going on that built up to taking Nancy in the first place, you've got to look deeper of who's connected to something, possibly illegal activity, and do they owe money to somebody or something like that? I'm not sure. I'm not saying that's what's happening here. It's just a possibility. I'm just speculating right now, but I'm not even alleging anything. I'm just saying it's feeling like a giant cobweb. It's feeling very, because if it was just a straightforward kidnapping for ransom and she was still alive, they would have handed her over for the money. And I did not buy the stupid bungled burglary, because you don't take victims with you when you're breaking into someone's home, especially if you hurt them or kill them. You leave them there. You don't take them with you. She was taken. She was targeted, and she was taken for a reason. Now we just need to figure out what the real reason is, and that's it. And then you might find a lot, and then you might not ever find Nancy, but you'll find out exactly who did it and why, unless somebody wants to reveal Nancy's whereabouts. I just feel like something's well and truly... Do you know what I'm getting a feeling from this? It's just very... I just feel like they know a hell of a lot more than we do, and they're just not telling us anything. And if they know a hell of a lot more than we do, it could be because it's a lot bigger than they're normally used to dealing with. Which then I'm going to go with my theory. And I could understand why. Because that would take a lot longer to do deeper dives and to connect financial dots and digital footprints, financial footprints. It becomes a lot more of an intricate, complex investigation at that point, and that can take time a lot longer. Especially when you're dealing with organised crimes and things like this. God. Poor Nancy. Imagine being drawn into this world when you have nothing to do with it. You would never have anything to do with this. But imagine just in case it is something to do with this, just hypothetically. But can you imagine being brought into this world that you would never ever choose to get involved in, or because of who you're associated with, or you didn't truly know who you're associated with? Because this is a world you've got to be brought into this world, or dragged into this world, or abducted into this world. Well, not so much abducted, just to be part of this world. You would have to be involved in it. You would have to have connections to people that are part of these sort of... And normal people don't tend to associate with people that are into organised crime and stuff like this, do they? And usually, when you're kind of getting involved in this sort of completely different world, it's down to because you might be addicted to drugs, you might be addicted to gambling, like crime addictions and things like this that you would need to get access to. I need more money, I need more drugs. Then what you're going to do to earn it, to get, you know what I mean? It's when you're sort of having those sort of habits and you're into that. And again, when you come even right down to sort of like the prostitution ring and the lap dancing circuits, right? You're part of these people, you are interconnected, and unfortunately you are connected to these sort of people. So you're part of this world without meaning to get involved in it in the first place. that's just, and there's never a good outcome. But now, and you know, kind of when you're fully involved in it, and you're aware that you can't just get out so easily, you become part of that world and what it is that you bring to that table. But can you imagine just being completely an innocent person, just living a life and not having anything to do with this, but you're dragged into it anyway by evil people that are involved in it? There's no way of getting out. It's almost like it's surrounding us, it's around us, and it just takes meeting that one accidentally meeting, or connecting to someone just innocently that you think you could be friends with or anything like that. Why am I going here somewhere? Let me keep going. Fucking hell. And then, without even not knowing who these people are or what they're really involved in, and then suddenly you're drawn into a world that you would never ever get involved in, or you're drawn into it because of it's who I know and it's what I can do and what I can get. It's who I'll just call my peoples, and like, why am I feeling like I'm dealing with these low level, low tier, pathetic little criminals that I've got? Well, I know where I'm going with this, but I'm going to stop now. So that's how close this world can actually draws in without even remotely wanting anything to do with it. Oh, good God. And I'm just focusing on that. It's being an innocent victim and being drawn into a evil fucking world like this. And that's what I feel like what could possibly have happened to Nancy. Anything else? I wasn't expecting to get this passionate, but I just feel because I'm connected to one of these perpetrators, I'm just seeing a whole different reality of what he's part of. And it's a lot bigger than just petty little criminals trying to make some money by kidnapping a woman. It feels bigger than that. This is the sort of person that if you were going to talk about what you're connected to and you were trying to get out alive, and you could find law enforcement, well, not so much law enforcement, probably more FBI, that you could trust to expose this whole world, you'd have to go into literal, you'd have to go into hiding. That's the only way you, I mean, just, it's not really a life though, because you're hidden. But I mean, it does happen, doesn't it? You just got the mafia, really. And I know the movies portray witness protection as a glorified thing, but you're never going to really truly live a free life when you belong to that. But the only way you're going to have some sort of life, if you're going to go up, you know, testify against absolute, so this crime and everything, you would have to go into witness protection. And the fact that I'm focusing on witness protection is weird, because like I say, I feel like this guy wants to talk. And that's the only way we'll be able to talk and still survive. That is so weird. Now I'm wondering if this guy has either reached out to the federal Bureau of Investigation, or wants to, but would have to be given that level of protection. That's interesting. And obviously they may not be telling us any of that. Well, they wouldn't. But I'm intrigued to know if something like that's going on behind the scenes. Okay, anything else? Feel like I brought as much as I can to the table. I was not expecting to bring on. I kind of felt like I was going somewhere earlier when I was doing my pre-prep and they were bringing up Mexican cartel and connections to Mexico. I thought, good Lord, what in God's name is going on here? That was the last thing I was expecting when I was pre-prepping. And now it just feels very intricately connected. You owe us, you didn't pay us, we took what you owe. That was real, like, I heard that real clearly. Multiple places. That's, again, anywhere there's multiple places, that's connected to organised crime. And there's many places you can. And then a white van, and then I was weirdly feeling like you might want to look for what could appear to be some sort of, and I heard just electrician, so that's interesting. That would not be looked at twice, like electricians are in the area, you know, but that might be what they were using, a white van to just sort of circulate the area, to watch people's times, like how many neighbours around Nancy's home at certain times, when, you know, that sort of thing. Scouting out CCTVs in the area, people's ring cams and stuff, which ones to avoid. So you would need to be on the ground somehow surveying that, rather than just doing the surveillance from a vacant building, a vacant home. And that they do this for a living. That's weird. Holding grounds, businesses, possible campgrounds, private resorts, things like that. Well, I wouldn't say resorts, they don't seem to look that glamorous, but like RV campgrounds and transient sorts of campgrounds with these weird cabins. That would look like a legitimate business, but it could just be a decoy business to run your crimes, drug trafficking, human trafficking, holding grounds. What are you God's doing, really? Right on your doorstep and everything, just right here, right on the doorstep of Mexico. Straight in, straight out, you know, oh God, seriously. So now you want to be looking, and there's multiple places, multiple like that. You need to be looking at private, that have connections, residence connections, why, and the fact that I had to, explain my sort of green card. So you could be looking at Mexican connections that have got whole green cards that actually earn our money. Well, it felt like earn, because you would have to own the land. You couldn't just be renting, because that would be risky for you if you're using it as burial ground and stuff like that. That would be risky. So there could be legitimate businesses, but decoy businesses. Oh, good Lord. Right, so I guess I'm going to be watching this space. But I feel like that's what needs to be. It's just something bigger going on. That's what I feel like's happening here. There's no reason to have all of this come through just by connecting to that one of those perpetrators if it's not this complex. So I am going to close this out at 12:56 p.m. You can just I don't really know why I'm even bothering sending a tip to the FBI, but I'm not sending it to the police department. I'm sending it to the FBI. That's it. I'll do that. I don't really know why I feel like I'm bothering, but I will. I'll do my part, and then this will premiere next Thursday. Just in case there's some information here that they may already be looking at this. They may, I wouldn't be surprised if the FBI is probably not looking at something similar to that, like, well, we're kind of already on it, but this might just be their confirmation or clarity, like, you're probably on the right path. You already probably know. You just, sometimes even they just need a little bit of confirmation that they're on the right track, even though they already, but it's, and if not, it might be another angle they may need to look into. So I will leave this here, and I will see you all again very soon.